On this day, 25 years ago, WWE decided to go from primetime wrestling pre-taped house show footage with light commentary dubbing, which they had been doing since the year I was born, to something different, something untested, something undone. Live weekly wrestling. To get the effect they wanted, they decided to go back to the ground roots level. Gone were the highlights and the theatrics. Gone were the big crowds, smaller club staging. Fans were closer, seats were better, and commentary was off the cuff. It was more gritty. It was raw. And thus the name Monday Night Raw was born. Unlike to your football fans, and every football fan on YouTube is probably going to hate me for this next statement, but it is a statement of fact. Monday Night Raw is the real Monday night. Period. Through bad games, through good games, through your middle of the road games, through your bad commentary, through your switches from ABC to ESPN, and everything in between, and the garbage conspiracy that is the offensively latent fantasy sports NFL, one thing has stayed the constant. Monday Night Raw. Whether it be on USA or Spike TV, which is now Paramount Network apparently, formerly TNN, Monday Night Raw has been a constant for 25 years. Constantly evolving, constantly changing, and through its ups and downs, constantly here. It brought live wrestling to the masses. It brought live wrestling to me. I wasn't used to live wrestling. I wouldn't order a lot of pay-per-views back when I was younger. In fact, my old elementary school principal back in Kentucky used to record pay-per-views like WrestleMania on tape and then give them to me. That was my exposure to the greatness of WrestleMania, the craziness of Survivor Series. Watching wrestling live was a rarity. It wouldn't be until I was 11, way after Raw began, that watching live WrestleMania became a yearly occurrence. For many, Monday Night Raw was a shocker in the early years. Live wrestling, live commentary, unpredictability, dark lights, and that God-forsaken siren. The early years of Monday Night Raw were filled with Vince McMahon doing commentary, and surprisingly, he was good at it. But as the WWE evolved, so did its Raw brand. And when it became the Attitude Era, two names would define its voice, and three words would define its identity. Raw is War being the words, Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler being the voice. You see, I grew up with three voices that meant the most in my life. John Madden for everything that I didn't care about, and the only reason why I even gave a damn about football, and Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler. Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler were my Regis and Kathy Lee. They were my Today Show host, my Bryant Gumbel and Katie Couric. But to be more frank and be more appropriate, Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler were Jesus himself and God. Jerry the King Lawler playing the role of Jesus and JR being God. For over a decade, these two were Monday nights. They were the voices of my everything. If anything happened, they were the track. The wrestling was secondary. It was because of their greatness on the mic that I even wanted to be a wrestling commentator. You could say it was because of these two beings that I'm even doing what I'm doing right now, talking up and down the praises. But from sun up to sundown every Monday night, I've watched Raw. You want to know how many Monday Night Football games I've watched in the 25 years of Monday Night Raw being consistent? 2. That's right. I've only watched 2 football games, and over the course of the 25 years of Raw, you want to know how many quarters I've watched of Monday Night Football? About as many years as Raw has been on. Only a combined 25 quarters. I have watched more hours of Raw than I've watched of anything else in my life. Except for maybe Power Rangers. But even that doesn't pale into comparison. The amount of hours, the amount of moments, the amount of satisfaction, and the amount of I've been here, I've been loyal, I've made this happen. For 25 years, wrestling fans have seen the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of the sport go through its A-brand. Even when SmackDown was introduced, we just called it Baby Raw in a lot of ways. And when even Raw ended up on Tuesdays because of US Open tennis a couple years, I was still there watching it, regardless if anyone else was. And yes, I was there when it moved to Spike TV and USA Network's ratings took a dive into the tank so fast you thought the network dropped off the face of the earth. That's why whenever I see a new show like Damnation get debuted on USA or Mr. Robot, I just say this line: WWE money, or as I would refer to it, Raw money in effect again. You see, Raw being such a stable force on the USA Network, by the by, stabilized the entire channel, and it still does. It allows them to do every other crazy original idea that USA wants to do, and especially now to great success. Even if Raw itself isn't the must-see beast that it once was back in the Attitude Era. And make no mistake, I knew the Monday Night Wars were going up and down, but I always chose my side. I hated, literally, watching Nitro. And the few times that I was forced to, I wanted to jam a shotgun down my throat and pull the trigger. Because that wasn't my wrestling show. Raw was. Raw came first. Raw was most important. And if it was Monday, the most important thing were those 3 letters. regardless of how I felt, regardless of how sick I felt, and even in my teenage years, regardless of how depressed I was. Even through my depression, I watched Raw. And I even lost cable for a year and a half. Which means for about a year and a half, I was devoid of my usual Monday nightness. Which I didn't care. I just played video games, mainly wrestling ones, through the hours that Raw would usually overtake. 7 o'clock to 9:05 Mountain Time, or now 6 o'clock to 9:05, or even 9:10 now Mountain Time. I always knew the channel. I always knew the times. I've always pre-recorded it. I've always been there for the opening bumper or segment. For me, Monday Night Raw means a lot to my wrestling life, and a lot to my life in general. Monday Night Raw is the anchor, regardless of what you may think of my week, of my life. And yes, when it comes to brand splits, yes, I'm not Raw in this brand split, but that's because Raw hasn't really been great. But that's systemic to the WWE's greater performance center problem that they're having. And Raw always seems to take it in the neck every time that the WWE has a concern. Tonight will be a celebration of everything that Raw is and every moment that it was. Mostly moments between the years 1996 and about 03, but still, it's relevant. That's what tonight is. It's a big party for everything that has been and will continue to be in present Monday Night Raw. Sure, it's not as raw as it used to be. There's a lot of pre-scripted promo garbage. The lights and pyros are bigger, and the theme song is decent, but not as good as let's say Papa Roach's To Be Loved or Nickelback's Burn It to the Ground. Yes, internet, come at me. Burn It to the Ground was an excellent Raw theme. And so was Union Underground, if not for the fact that every time you would see the Union Underground intro of Raw, somebody would get murdered in the first 2 minutes, and they were talking about drugs and guns. Look up the lyrics. That's legit. And if you need help, the song is called Across the Nation. Look it up. Raw is the more aggressive brand, which means it needs more aggressive theme songs, unlike Tonight is the Night and unlike I Need It Raw. Those theme songs are too chill. When I think of Raw, I think of the gladiatorial arena in Rome and millions of fans giving their thumbs up and thumbs down as they wait for the lions to draw blood. Or I guess in this modern case for Braun Strowman to draw blood. But still, the emphasis is notwithstanding. Yes, the bane of my existence, Michael Cole, continues to infect my ears with a viral infection, and the commentary has gotten totally worse over the course of time, except for you, Corey Graves. You are a treasure. Byron Saxton, I want to know what your DNA is constructed of so that the human race can not be it. Yes, women's wrestling has gotten better, and the logo has gotten more, I guess, raw. It's based on sword making, by the way. You know, the old smelter. But all in all, Raw's been a fun ride. For 25 years, it has never really disappointed me. There's no such thing as a bad Raw. Only more segments that make me laugh or cringe more than get me hyped. And as the WWE continues its transitional period, it's only going to get tougher for Raw. Once again, it goes back to that performance center problem. But tonight is not the night to complain about how bad the future of the WWE looks. Well, actually, it kind of is. Tonight's going to be one for the ratings ages and one for the WWE ages. Everybody that ever meant anything to Raw is coming along to this two venue event. Yes, they're going back to the old school Manhattan Center while also laying it down at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. They're going all WrestleMania 2 for this thing. And that's great, except it's only going to further reflect how inept the modern roster is. Don't believe me? Just look at the guest list. This is like the Grand Galloping Gala if it involved tables, ladders, blood, and JR screaming, "My God," for about 3 hours, with a 1 hour pre show. So, this is essentially a pay per view before, well, a major pay per view. That's how big this moment and this day is. And you know what? Regardless of the pain that it will cause me in the immediate future, especially the 3 months to come, and what it will mean to wrestling in the future, I know one thing's for certain. Monday Night Raw will be there to meet it. I don't know what form it will take. 3 hours, 2 hours, and supposedly even on a new network, if the rumors are to be believed. Which, by the way, this would be network number 3 for the veritable super brand. But even through its troubles and tribulations, Raw for me is like the stable parent. It's like the best friend you can always depend on. The one thing for certain. The cosmic law of the universe. Well, now it's even more so now that The Undertaker's cosmic law has been broken. But that's the thing about TV shows. TV shows don't last this long. TV shows don't have this impact. Especially when it comes to live television. Live television is hard in the same way that doing what I'm doing right now is hard. And it's only gotten harder with time, especially with the internet down the WWE's throats every 5 minutes. But that's normal, one would think, and deserved. I mean, as much as Raw has changed on the inside, on the outside, the inner workings of Raw, however, have not. My advice going forward for the next 25 years, it's time for Raw to return to its roots. Sure, get the pyro back. That's a company edict. But in terms of its presentation, it needs to be more grounded. You see, SmackDown acts like the more straight to wrestling show, which is odd for me. That feels like Raw's role, to be the straight wrestling show. Little promos, little talking, very straight wrestling, very straightforward. It gets back to the edict of the idea to be gritty, to be real, to be raw. And as a wrestling fan, I have always been that. I've always been genuinely raw. I never have not let my fandom for the WWE not shine through everything else. To me, the WWE title is the most important thing in life. That's why it disgusts me that the Universal title is a B title. It is a crap title. It is a piece of utter garbage. And yet it is on the A brand. The brand that has defined so much of my wrestling life, wrestling moments, and wrestling time. It's time for that to change. It's time for the WWE title to return to the brand that is most worthy for, most synonymous with. So many WWE title changes have happened on the A brand. It only feels right that it return home. No matter if it's silly stuff like Daniel Bryan and Kane going to therapy, or cars being destroyed or tipped over, whether it's Vince McMahon and that sound of that stupid bedpan, whether it's the greatest debut and the greatest return of Y2J, whether it's Jeff Hardy committing suicide via the Titantron, whether it's The Undertaker's very rare appearances there, or John Cena ruling the roost. Monday Night Raw has always provided moments for me and moments for wrestling fans. Tonight, yes, we celebrate it all, as goofy as it is. This show with a simple edict. Keep it real, keep it gritty, keep it raw. We celebrate everything about it, and every moment that made us even bigger wrestling fans than we already are turned us into wrestling fans. We remember the war, the flipping channels, the Mick Foley, I did it, Adrian. We remember all of it tonight. But despite remembering it all, its future oddly looks bleak, as the WWE is in a transitional period, and so too must the brand go. But at least for one night, wrestling fans, let's put our hatred, our vitriol, and our disappointment in what wrestling is now, and remember what it has given us for all time. I know for one thing, it's given me stability. It's given me certainty. It's given me something that I can depend on. Some nights it gives me something exciting. Some nights it might not. But all in all, it connects me back to a childhood that I remember fondly, if not all of it. It connects me back to a time when I used to believe in this stuff. But I'll be frank, I still believe in this stuff, regardless of how old I get. Heroes, villains, victory, defeat, I remember it all. And Monday Night Raw was the core of it. I can't believe I spoke 25 minutes on it. but that's how it makes me feel. So, thank you, Monday Night Raw, for 25 years of being utterly crazy.